Hey there, and welcome to another Curtis Stage video tutorial. Today's tutorial is in Photoshop, and we're going to be doing animation once again. And our tutorial is going to look like this. So we're going to do a basic, you can use the Rolling Stones as our template, and it's kind of an Instagram story. We're going to do some fun stuff here, basic little things to kind of just get you used to animating within Photoshop, which is a little tricky. So that's what it's going to look like. Let's open up Photoshop and get started. Okay, so I have Photoshop open and I just kind of wanted to show you what our timeline is going to look like. We're going to build this up. And so you can see if we've got our layers over here to the right. We've got quite a few layers over here. But what I really want you to look at is our video timeline. And you'll see I've got my playhead, and that video that I just showed you, this is what it looks like kind of happening on the timeline. So we're going to make this. I just kind of wanted to show it to you first just so you get a visual of what it's going to look like. And of course you can always change things and manipulate them and do them your own way, but I definitely want you to follow on with the tutorial and do it the way I'm doing it first, and then you can kind of manipulate and add and subtract things and do your own crazy stuff. Alright, so let's open up a new document. So I'm going to go to File, New. When I do that, I want to open up a Instagram size document. So to do that, it's 1080 by 1920. So you can type that in right here if you like. 1080 by 1920, that's Instagram story size. Resolution doesn't really matter, 72, 200 doesn't matter there. Background white, that's all fine. So we're going to click Create. If you do not already have it open, you're going to want to open the video timeline. So to do that, you go up to Window and Timeline, and I'm going to close mine just so you can see it. If I go to Window, Timeline, and then there's the video timeline. Now, to make the first part of our animation, let me just kind of go back to this one. We're gonna have the Rolling Stones tongue logo kind of doing this across the screen or something like it. We're gonna do that actually in a animation timeline. So what we're gonna do is we're not gonna click Create Video Timeline. We're gonna go here and create Frame Animation and click that. We'll convert it to a video timeline later, but I wanted to kind of show you this too because we're going to be using this as well. What we're going to do is add a couple things here first. So I want to have a background that's red, so I'm going to create a layer here, and the layer that goes above my background layer, and I'm going to fill that with red. So let's go here, and I'm going to go to fill a color, pick red all the way on top, click OK. And there we have it. Now we have a red layer here. Okay, now that's going to be our background layer. Then we want to have a layer above this layer that logo, which you'll be downloading all the files for this either on YouTube or in Canvas. I have them linked in YouTube as well. But I'm going to add a layer down on the bottom. So I've filled the layer here, and I'm going to add a layer. This is where our logo is going to go. So the first logo is going to be Stone's logo number 1. I'm going to bring that in and drag it right onto my timeline. There I go. I'm going to get it sized, maybe kind of like this, and that looks good. Hit the check mark. You can see that it's a smart object because I grabbed it right from my folder on my computer and dragged it right into here. That's okay. That will work for right now. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do a tween animation. This is pretty cool here. We're going to put our mouth kind of, well, we'll leave it right here, and I'm going to add another layer on my animation timeline by clicking this little button right down there. So you see how it duplicates that layer. Now I'm going to leave the mouth here on the second layer, and on the first layer I'm going to go back up here and put the mouth kind of off screen. Sometimes you have to kind of move it back, so I want it to kind of go there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select both of these layers. This is pretty cool here. So I'm going to hold down Shift, both Mac and PC, select both the layers, and I'm going to click this little icon right here. This is going to create a motion tween. Tween just is short for in between frames. So I'm going to click that. It's going to say, would you like to, with the selections, so I've got the 2 frames selected with the selections. Would you like to add some frames? I'm going to say 8 frames. How about that? All layers, fine, it doesn't matter. And because, well, it actually does matter, all layers, because I do want the red background layer to be in there. So I'm going to click OK, leave all this just like that. Click OK. And now what it's going to do, if I press the little play button here, look at that. It animated that for us. It basically said from frame 1 to frame 10, get there. So whatever you have on your layer, go do that motion, right? So it's going to kind of, as smoothly as it can, it's going to duplicate that image from 1 to 10. Pretty cool. That's called a tween. Now I don't want to end there, so I want to click on my last layer, duplicate it. I'm going to go down here, duplicate it. Okay. So now I've got two of the same layer. Now I'm going to move this down here, kind of going off screen here. So from there to there, from 10 to 11. And now I'm going to select both those. So here's 10, here's 11. I held shift down. If you look closely, they're both highlighted gray. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go to this little tween button. I'll add 8 frames. That's fine. Click OK. And now when I press the play button, and you might want to loop this forever, right? Right here, loop forever. And I press the play button. And now it's going to show me this animation from there to there. Let's do one more. So just to get the hang of this, I'm going to click 19, the last frame in the sequence. Click my add a duplicate frame button there, that little plus. I'm going to move this now up. I'm going to kind of just go across, back up like this way. I'm going to go like that, kind of off screen. And I'm going to select 19 and 20. Select both those. Click the create tween, keep it at 8, click OK. And now when I press the play button, it's going to show me those frames, but it's going to start back up to start. Awesome. Kind of does all that. Very cool. Each one of those frames is editing the same layer. So it's very cool how this works. It can get confusing, and when we do our next animation tutorial, we're going to be doing a little bit more of this. So I'll leave this here like this. I probably wouldn't mess around with this any more than this. Just kind of, let's move on. Now, to move on, we are going to switch this now to a video timeline. So I'm going to go down here to this little icon here that says convert to video timeline. Now it's going to take it and convert the whole timeline, and we use this in our prior tutorials. So now I just expanded this timeline a little bigger so I can see it. I've got 25 frames. If I take that playhead, you'll see there's my animation as one big video block there. It doesn't have the individual frames anymore. Great. Now, this video timeline, these purple layers are actually not video layers. They're still layers here. In our next tutorial, we will use video layers to create frame-by-frame animations in here. And it's very interesting, but today we're not going to do that. So we've got this part right here. Now, what I want to do is I want to add our next sequence here. So the next sequence is going to be just the title of the next Rolling Stones logo. So I'm going to add a layer over on the right-hand side. You'll notice if I put my playhead towards the end and I add a layer, look at how it adds it. Let me do that again, Command Z. I'll put my playhead at the end of this sequence and I'll click add layer. It added a layer right here. And there it added a layer right there. Now, I want the red layer to continue on throughout this whole sequence. I'm going to keep bringing this down here. So let me make this timeline smaller so I can see the whole thing. Sometimes you have to zoom out. It's kind of the equivalent of zooming out. And I want to drag that down so it's the whole way. Now, I don't need this next part to be this long. I'm going to shorten this one down here. And when I bring my mouse down here, you can see that this is now 2 seconds long. So maybe a little longer than that. Maybe that'll go to 4 seconds. So this first part's going to go pretty quick. Okay, so if I want to actually extend this first one out a little bit, make it longer, I have to duplicate it. Now, it's going to be interesting how we do this. We have to click on the Stones logo one layer, hold down Control on a Mac, and I believe it's same on a PC on here, and we're going to go to Duplicate Layer. It's going to give us this dialog box, right? And I haven't saved my file yet, but I want it to go into my untitled one. And then there we go, it is a duplicated version of this. And now I can bring it down over here. And so now when I have this, I can see both of them happening here. If I just went to Command J, I could do it as well. But the problem with this is look at this, look what happens. If I just do Command J, the object doesn't move. See that? So I don't want to do the Command J. It's kind of a strange little quirk. You have to do this. You have to, again, click right here on this side here of the layer and go to Duplicate Layer. Keep it in this document. And there you go. And now it's the same exact size. It's very crucial that you do it that way. So that's cool. I'm going to put this maybe down here at the end or something. Kind of move it down over here. Maybe we'll need that, but I've got two of them. Now I've got my new blank layer. So this is good, this is happening. Now I've got this one, nothing on this one. That's layer 2 up here. Notice these two layers got put in a folder probably called video group, and I can also put that one in there too. And just by kind of doing that, if I want, then they're all in the same line, right? So then they're all together on one line, but I am gonna move that one down. So they're all in the same layer when they're in a video group over here in the timeline. All right, now I'm gonna take this layer and I'm gonna add the words, this Stones logo number 3. Then we're gonna go here, drag it in. There it is. Okay, so now it's right here. It's on its own layer. Actually, I didn't even need to click OK. It created its own layer. I didn't really need to create a new layer for that. Let me delete that. So it created its own layer, and I'm going to shorten it. Maybe about, you can see kind of my duration on this, maybe like 2 seconds, 3 seconds, something like that. So I've got this one going, about 2 seconds. Then I'm getting in here. This is going to be about 2 seconds. Now, what I want this one to do is I want it to get smaller and then bigger. So we're going to open this little toggle up here. We're going to do what we did in our last tutorial. We're going to do a transform on this. So I'm going to click the little stopwatch here to add a keyframe. I'm going to go down to the end, click and add another keyframe. And when I'm on this end one, I'm going to do the the keyboard shortcut of Command or Control T and size this up. And kind of make it as big as you want. I was kind of maybe make it so it kind of wipes the screen or something like this. So you could do that, hit the check mark or enter. That's good. And then I'm going to go back to the first one, back to that first keyframe, make sure it's yellow right here, and Command T on that one and make this thing really small. Now if you want it to go into the center, you're going to want to hold down Option or Alt, so that when you're sizing this down, dragging a corner, and you hold down Option on a Mac or Alt on a PC, it'll stay on center. Hit the check mark. So now you can see this thing getting bigger. Cool. So now that's going in front of us. Now this sizing thing you cannot do in a frame-by-frame animation. Can't do it. So the thing that we did with this stuff right here, you can only move these. You can't size them. So you have to do it in the video timeline. All right, so that's our second one. Now we're going to do our third one. Third one's going to look like this. So we've got that one. Now we're going to spin. We're going to take this thing and spin it, and we're going to add some styles to it. So we're going to change it over time. It's kind of clunky, but it works. So let's do that. Now, by the way, we probably should save this file as we're going, because if this thing crashes, that would be kind of a bummer. So I'm going to call it Stones 2, put it in my Rolling Stones thing, click save. Okay, so now what we want to do is add another, I guess we don't need to add a layer if we're bringing it right in out of our folder. I'm going to toggle this closed. I'm going to go and get in my folder, I'm going to get the logo that is the round circle logo like this, like that. It's got a weird transparency thing on here, so I'm going to get rid of that before I do anything else. I'm going to hit the check mark. I'm going to actually rasterize this to do that. So I'll probably give you one that's cleaned up better than this. So I'm going to have to go to Layer, Rasterize, because it's a smart object, so I can't fix this until I clean it up here and make it a rasterized image. Now I'm going to go here and I'll get rid of that. didn't want that in there. You won't have that in your file. I'll give it to you guys clean without that checkerboard. Shouldn't have been on there. All right, now what I'm going to do is give myself some time on this one. So maybe another 2 seconds. You can see my duration, 2 seconds, 24, 3 seconds, something like this, maybe 3 seconds. So there we go. I've got probably 12 frames per second. I don't know what I've got here, or something like that. So, oh no, I've got 30 frames per second. So I've got 30 frames per second. So this is going to be a pretty quick animation. Now, what I want to do with this is extend my red all the way at the bottom. That layer is not doing anything. It's just staying the way it is the whole time. So I'm going to extend that so it's below this. I want to move this layer so that it's coming right after the animation I just did. So I want that to happen here. And now what I want to do is I want to do something a little bit different. I'm going to make this big right to start. So I'm going to Command T, make it large. Maybe not so big. I'll keep it, it's a little pixelated, so I'm going to kind of maybe do something like that and hit the check mark. Okay. Now what I want to do is I want to spin this thing. So I'm going to open up my little toggle. I've got the position here. So this is it has to be a smart object if I'm going to do a transform. So I've got to turn it back into a smart object. You see how when I open this up, it says position, but it doesn't say transform like this one does? Well, I needed to say that because if it just says position here, I can only move it from one place to another, which would be fine, but I don't really want to do that. So, although you could. So watch what happens when I do that. Let's say I want to do a similar animation that I did back here with this guy. I could click position there, and then I can go down here and add a frame and click position there, and I could do one in the middle and click another keyframe, and then I could move this down, let's say, and then this is going to have kind of like a little cool bouncing effect, right? Cool bouncing effect there. Now, if I convert this to a smart object, I won't have that. So it's a little quirk there. You can only do, at this point in Photoshop, you can only do one or the other. So I'm going to go here, convert to smart object. And now you'll see that when I do that, look at that. That animation's applied, which is cool. So it'll have that bouncing animation, kind of. Let's see, it goes up, down, up. Okay, it has it. But now look at it, it says transform on there. It does not have the position. Again, do not know exactly why this is the case, but it is. So now I'm going to do a transform. I'll do one in the middle, another keyframe in the middle, and another keyframe at the end. And I'll go back to the middle one, and I can use these little arrows to transport me to each keyframe. You see that? How I can use these little arrows and it'll get me to each keyframe. So I want to be on that keyframe right there. I'm going to do Command T now, and I'm going to zoom out, Command minus, I'm going to rotate. Now, do you see how it's rotating here? That's because my center point is not where I want it to be. I'd have to double click in this to get this center point up higher. It's a little tough. I do not have access to that. So I'm going to go back to it and Command T. And let's see if I can change that center point. Yeah, it doesn't let me change the center point here. I'd want to move the center point down here where that stones is. I think it's just because I animated it first. If I would have done this the other way, it wouldn't have done this if I didn't bounce it first, because now look at how it's this whole space here. So now when I bounce, this could be interesting. So I'm going to hit the check mark. And so this is going to bounce, rotate and swing on the between here and here. Let me maybe rotate it there, back here. So I'm going to hit Command T and transform, and there it's kind of nice because it's on the center. So I'm just kind of having some fun with it. So it's going to kind of swing around and be weird. Okay, I don't really have a lot of control when I did that bounce first. I probably shouldn't have done it. I'm going to go to the end and do a transform on that. Rotate that around a little bit. And now it'll kind of have some funky, weird rotation. That's okay. It's going to be an Instagram story animation, so whatever. Fine, as long as it's kind of a little weird from here to there, but okay. Now, the other thing we're going to do is we're going to add a style to this. So I'm going to go back to the first frame, go back to that first frame. I can use my transform right here to get me to the first frame. And I'm going to click the style watch right there to add a keyframe. And then I'm going to go to the end and do the same thing and add a style watch. And I'm going to open up the styles panel. We don't use this very much in Photoshop. It's kind of an old school panel, but it is the only thing we can do with these animations. I can't do blend mode changes with these things. Unfortunately, it'd be really cool. So with styles, there's some folders here, and most of them are pretty not good for animation, right? So there's that. I don't really like that. Command Z. So I don't want dirt, right? I don't want to turn to dirt, right? So I really want to, so none of these naturals work here. Fur isn't going to work. You think it'd be cool. It's not. Command Z. These are good for if you're maybe doing interior design work and you want to cover a chair. I don't know, in Photoshop. So I'm going to go to the legacy styles. Now I have this folder by going to this hamburger menu right here. There's 3 little lines, or is it 3 lines? Restore default styles. And then there's legacy styles and more. And that's what I clicked there to get this folder open. And then you've got inside this, there's some good ones in here. I like image effects. And then with image effects, I can do some cool things like add filters or whatever. So let me see. You know, then there's glass buttons. These were the old days of doing web video and stuff, or doing websites in Photoshop. We're not going to use any of those. There's abstract styles. We're not going to use any of those. Let's see what the default legacy style is. Ooh, yeah, it doesn't really do much unless I can blend. So it doesn't, I still want to see the logo, right? So let's get one that we can. So I'm going to go to photographic effects. I think that one's good. And I'm going to go to exclusion with magenta. There we go. Because exclusion is one of our blend modes, right? If I was going to use a blend mode, exclusion's one of them. So they've got that in here, which is great. Now I'm going to go down here to the middle and maybe do another keyframe on style. And maybe do overlay with gold. So it's going to transform between that and that. Then I'll go at the start and do another one here. Hue ghosted. That's kind of cool. So it'll kind of do that. And I just kind of do a few of them along this. So I'll maybe add another keyframe here and do a purple overlay. I'm doing things that would be blend modes, right? And then go here and you can see a difference. Perfect. So I've got a bunch. So they're gonna just change over time here. If I press the little play button right here, you're gonna see this. It's going a little slow, but when it renders, it'll go faster. And there we go, it's gonna kinda do its thing. All right, start at the start and kind of do this. It's a little slow during this part, but it'll speed up when we render it out. So kind of fun. All right, now let's make our next, so that's done with the style. So that's how you can kind of use this style area down here. I don't use it much, but you know, it's kind of for funky things like this. It's kind of fun. All right, so the next one we're gonna do, let's go back up here. The next one we're gonna do a animation of Mick. So Mick Jagger was the lead singer. We're gonna make him dance. He's not dancing. We're gonna use a still photo. So I'm gonna bring that in. So I'm gonna close this down, close that down, just get a little bit more room here on my timeline. And I'm going to bring in a picture of Mick. That's our Mick PNG. Bring that in onto here, and it's going to give me a smart object here. Click OK. That's fine. Now what I want to do, I'm going to bring Mick down a little bit so his legs are not, showing. And I don't want him to be this long. In fact, we're just going to bring him back to a couple. I'm going to make this bigger. I'm just going to bring him back to a few frames. So I'm going to say probably, you can see it now, I'm at 0.8, so that's frames. I'm going to make them like 12 frames. So it's 12 frames. So now what I'm going to do, make sure he's not on top of this. I want that to end and him to start. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate Mick here. Do another one. I'm going to put my playhead right here. I'm going to do Command J. This time Command J works, okay? Because so I don't have to do that duplicate the way we did it before. I'm going to shrink this down now, although I probably could do it the way we did it before, and I might not have to shrink this down. Okay, so now I've got the same one. You're probably like, what the hell? Now I'm going to move these on the same layer here now. So I'm going to put them down on the same timeline layer. So they're kind of right next to each other. Now, this one, we're going to make Mick dance a little bit. So we're going to do what's called a puppet warp. It's kind of fun. I'm going to go to edit. So now with this second layer, we're going to do a puppet warp. This is very fun to use with animation. I'm going to go to edit, puppet warp, and I'm clicked on that frame right there, right? Or series of frames. It's a video chunk. Now you're going to get this mesh on here. I'm going to zoom in, bring this down a little bit, zoom in, Command plus, bring this down a little bit. I'm going to put a couple pins in Mick to make him dance. So I want a pin on his arm right there. Now watch, when I put that pin there, nothing's going to happen. But if I put another pin where his elbow is, check this out. Now I'm going to kind of start being able to move him. Look at that. Now I need more pins. So I'm going to put another pin where his shoulder would be. Okay, now you can see if I've got that going, now his arm will move and his body will move. So this is kind of good right here. I'm going to maybe leave that like that. And I'm probably not going to do any other pins on this. I'm just going to do that for right now. So what you want to do is when you put those 3 pins in, move the microphone. Look at that, it's pretty cool. Move the microphone down, move the shoulder up, not too far. I don't want to see the bottom of his legs, or maybe move him back that way, and then click the check mark. So now you can see he's going to go from one to the other, right? It's going to distort his arm a little bit, whatever. It's going to go quick. This is on Instagram. All right, so what I want to do is I want to make a duplicate now of this. So look at over my layer stack, it's got a smart filter on it. That's the puppet warp. So I want to make a duplicate of this one. So I'm going to do, well, let's see if it will work. Control, duplicate layer, inside this Stones PSD. Yep, that's the one we're working on. There we go. Oh, that's good because it keeps it the same size, so perfect. Now I've got, oh, I don't want that there. How did that get across there? So let me undo that. Maybe I was clicked on something else. I just want Mick. So I'm going to just Command J and duplicate it that way and then shrink it down. Kind of stinks, but you got to do it. Okay. They haven't worked out all the kinks. Oh, maybe I've got, oh, I see. That was my, oh, I could do it that way. There was my tongue coming back in. Okay, that was my fault. So I could do it that other way, and then I don't have to shrink it down. Okay, so now I've got this third one. Now I'll go over here to the puppet warp and double click puppet warp, and I get my mesh back. And now I can move his arm back up. I can extend it. I can move his elbow in. Notice I'm not really moving a bunch of other stuff, but I could add a couple more. I could add his hips and move one hip out. It might distort him a little bit, so just be careful. And then maybe add a torso, so he's kind of twisted this way. Kind of cool. Hit the check mark. You don't want to go, I mean, it's fine to go extreme, right? There we go. Look at that. Little Boogie and Mick. 3 frames, or 3, feels like frames, but it's actually more than frames. Now, I don't want to do all that again. That's fine. I want to copy all 3 of these now. So let me make this a little taller here. I'm going to hold down Shift, click all 3 of those, okay, and they're selected in the timeline here. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to copy those, so I'm going to Command J on those. Not copy and paste, Command J. And now I've got them again. I need to extend my red down. So that's clearly. So you got that now. Now you got Mick kind of doing his thing a couple times, right? Maybe I'll do them 3 more. Maybe I'll do a Command J again. And if I do a Command J, oops, I was on the wrong layer. I gotta select these. So I gotta go here. I gotta go up top here. Got this layer here. I gotta hold down Shift, select those layers, Command J again. There they go. Now, I could always go in and puppet warp any one of these. So I can click that one. Click any one of these. There we go. Click that one and go to its puppet warp, and I can, maybe if I want them a little different, I can add a couple so his wrist changes a little bit and do that. And I don't want to distort him too much, but it's fine. It's all for fun. So maybe I do that. Check mark. So they're not exactly the same. So it's like boop, 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 and then a big different there. Cool. I'm going to move this, the lips that I logo down. Okay, so now I got that. Now one more. let's do Keith here. So we're gonna add him to the mix. We're getting pretty huge on this layer stack, so I'm gonna toggle that closed right there. And now I'm gonna add Keith in. Again, if we go back to the one I did, I've got Keith there, and he's kind of boogieing, and I put a Stones logo in the bottom corner, and then that's gonna zoom in like that. So let's do that. So I'm gonna go back, put my playhead kind of to the end of Mick, extend my red down more, and then I'm gonna get my Keith PNG and add him on here, and he's gonna be his own. There he is, hit the check mark. I don't want him, I'm gonna move him up. I'm just gonna kind of keep the stack up, going up. And it could be on the same layer, it could be in the same video group if we want. Let's kind of see it, there it is. Now I want it small. Okay, let me get my playhead on it, so something like that. Okay, let's do a puppet warp on Keith. Now you'll notice Keith, because his guitar, here, well, get him in place. I could put him at the bottom and put the Stones thing up at the top. I could do something like that. That'd be kind of cool. I didn't do that on the last one. I just want to see the neck of his guitar. I want to see him. Okay, so Keith's down here. Mick was over there. Keith's down here. The other Stones logo will go above that. Okay, puppet warp once more. So I'm going to go, it's a smart object, so that's fine. I'm going to go to Edit, Puppet Warp. Okay, I'm going to put some, it's going to look funky. I'm going to put one on his head, one on his neck, right? Because then, so that's not going to do anything quite yet until I put a third one on his shoulder. Then the neck will move. See that? So it's fun. Okay, and then maybe usually put them at all joints in someone's body. So we get into this more, but now it warps it a little then too. I don't really want to warp it. I just want to kind of have his head kind of going back and forth. But those other ones anchor it. So here he is on the first one. And I'm gonna make that's all good. I put it on the first one, so now when I make a duplicate copy of this, let's try that. So I'm gonna go over here, control click right there on the edge of that layer, duplicate layer, going into my document that I have. There it is, that's good, because then I don't have to change anything. I don't have to make it times the same. Double click puppet warp, and now I can manipulate this one. I can make his head kind of go like this. I don't really wanna move his guitar too much. I guess I could kind of do that, and look at how it pushes his guitar down if I move his arm. Put the check mark, and now between those two files, that's good. I don't know what else Mick Keith is gonna do here. Keith Richards. I don't know what else he's gonna do, right? You probably recognize him if you don't like the Rolling Stones. He's in Pirates of the Caribbean too. You better know him from the Rolling Stones. He's probably one of the most famous guitar players ever. Okay, so let's just say I do 2 of these, and I'm gonna hold both of them, and then put my playhead right here at the end of that, and then Command J, and then I could do another one, Command J, and I've got a few of those. Pretty cool. So I've got a few, maybe one more, Command J, there we go. Got that original Stones thing. We'll end this thing, we'll loop back to the start. Now that's cool. Extend my red down at the bottom down here. Now let's get a picture, another logo underneath Keith right here. So I'm gonna bring it in. I'm gonna close this video group down just so we kind of see this. I'm gonna do my last logo. It's called the Some Girls logo. I'm gonna bring that in and drag it right onto our stage, and it creates get the check mark here, and there I go. Okay, now it's got the black around it. I want to get rid of that. I can always do that. So let's put that under Keith. All right, so it starts when Keith starts right there. I can get that black out of there. So I can just go right over here to my magic wand tool and click. All that stuff still works. I got to rasterize the object first, that's right. So let me go here, it's a smart object. I want to go up to Layer, Rasterize, Smart Object, right? I've got it. Now I can click on it and hit delete, and I've got rid of all that black. Command D, deselect. There we go. So I've got that going on behind Keith now. Pretty cool. And we can make it really big, or we can keep it that size. We can animate that as well. I think you've got the hang of it. and then we can end with this duplicate kind of mouth at the end, which is kind of cool. Now, if I want to export this out, I want to render it. So let's do that. So let's go up to File and Export, Render to Video, and here we go. And you want to pick your folder. So I'm going to go select my folder. I want it to be on my desktop so I can find it into my Stones thing. Awesome. I'll give it a name, Stones 2, keep it the same thing. I can put it in a subfolder if I want. Great. Document size, it knows the document size. Everything here is good. And I'm going to click Render. It's going to be an MP4, and you can bring that into Instagram for Instagram stories or Instagram itself, right? But Instagram stories, you can bring an MP4 in. So that's why we're converting this to a video and not a GIF. Instagram can't do GIFs. So it's exporting this video out. As soon as that's done, we'll see what that looks like. Let me pull my file over here and double click and open it. There it is. And I got that whipping around, nice. Stones thing there. Got a little circle going around. Got Mick moving, pretty cool. That's nice. I think I did a good job on that. Little Keith playing. And then we got the Stones thing there. And there we go, something like that. You can totally see something cheesy like that for Rolling Stones Instagram story deal where they have a song playing underneath it. So, all right, that's kind of fun. That's another Curtis Stage video tutorial. I'll see you in the next animation tutorial. We're gonna have another one of those. So I'll see you then.